Hi, so this is a quick and brief demo about CloudFormation automation with CodeCommit and CodePipeline. And for that, we're gonna need to set up a new CodeCommit and IAM user with some programmatic access to and maybe the console later. So let's jump into by creating the end user and set up a keygen access so we can test access and over SSH, and then we can jump into the CodeCommit repository creation. So I'm gonna add a new user and gonna name it CFN auto. Gonna add programmatic access as usual for AWS command line interface. And for permissions, we need to add a code commit access. So we can use this code commit full access for this demo, but of course it could be different in a production environment with different security requirements. And let's review how the end user is going to be created. Create the end user through the IAM, and let's download the CSV file from the CFN auto user we just created, and I will close it. Alright, so here the new user, and now we're gonna jump into the command line interface so we can set up the kits. Okay, so here's the command line interface, and I'm sure I have set up a folder for this demo. Let's see. I had previous demos and tests on this, so I have a few files around here. But for now, let's focus on creating the RSA key pair that we're going to be using on the SSH access to the repository. So let's use the keygen command. SSH keygen, and it's going to ask a name for the to the key pair. So let's get a new name such as CFN auto RSA. So we keep the name similar to the IAM user we previously created. There's no passphrase for this at this moment, and here is the fingerprint for it. And now if you list the .ssh folder, we're gonna see that we have the new key pair files created here, private key and the public key, and we need to add the public key to the IAM user. So let's first config this key pair on the config files on the SSH folder, the .ssh folder, and then I jump back into the AM interface to add the public key file to the public key to the IAM user. So I have a config file from previous tests already configured, so let's just make a copy of it and then change into the new key signature. I'm gonna use Nano for this config setup. And then we have previous use file, setting up the Git code commit for every single region on Amazon AWS, our previous key name user as an access ID, and we're gonna replace this using the new access ID. So let's for now change the identifier to the CFN auto RSA that we had previously before. Entering the CFN auto, I user going to security credentials, and we need to upload SSH. So I should have added the file before, so let's cancel this for now. I'm gonna save this file. Let me copy the public key into the SSH. Part of the IAM user, and now I have a new SSH key ID. So now we can have this SSH key ID backed into the config file. So let's just erase this, paste back the new correct key ID, and make sure you have the correct file. Save it, and it should be all set. That's a good time to test Git using the version command. So make sure you have update Git version, which are using Linux, Windows, or the Mac. And now we are ready to give a quick test out on Git. So let's use this SSH git commit. Git code commit. And it should ask about fingerprint first time. Let's see, we trust it, and we can confirm that we have successfully authenticated into over SSH. So that means the AM user and the RC key part works fine. So at this point, if it doesn't work, please stop, check the SSH key ID, and if you correct, upload the public key you just created, and starting the .ssh file, and have proper config file. And before this one more thing you can do is change mode the config file so it's just readable by the owner user. So it makes the file only usable by this Unix account. Okay, so let's jump into the CodeCommit console and create a repository. So we can add the CloudFormation template on it and start testing versioning through the git command line. So let's jump into the code commit shortcut that I had here. If it's a forest repository in this region, you're gonna get that message, and please make sure you are in the Ohio US East 2 if you follow exactly the same, but we can change into a different area as a different region as well. So let's make this CFN auto as a repository, CloudFormation with CodeCommit and CodePipeline demo, and here we go. You can have email notification for several kinds of events on the repository, and I'll skip this for now. Don't want to make it more complicated as it is. And now we can start adding files to the repository and connecting a Git tool to it. So we can use Git as we're going to do in the command line interface, but you can have other tools such as the BBEdit, or which is an excellent tool. You can have Xcode. But for now, let's stick to this one. And let's clone this empty repository. So again, I'm on this demo folder, which I had some other previous demo, and we're gonna create a new repository file folder for this demo. So let's copy the command, and if you had all the credentials corrected before, we're gonna be able to clone this empty repository, and everything going fine. We're gonna get this message that we had an empty clone repository, which is fine for now. Okay, so let's close this message, and we're seeing that we have an empty repository. Let's move our test file or make a copy of it into this repository. If we listen again, you can see that we have a new folder for this repository named CFN Auto. So let's copy the VPC auto.yaml file into the CFN Auto. So now we get a hidden Git repository configuration and our files. We have this new CloudFormation simple template that will make a VPC to subnets and an internet gateway, and associate a default routes to those two subnets, make them public. Just very simple CloudFormation template for this, and then we can start adding a few elements to the template and see how it works. Okay, so let's clear the screen, start checking our key repositories. So again, you can check the status of the repository. We can see we have a new file into the local copy of the repository, and we can add it to use the add -cap a. So if you run git status again, there's no commit set on the branch master, and have a new file VPC auto.yaml. That's our our template file for CloudFormation later on. And let's commit the file to the repository using git commit -m command, and so this is first commit to the repo. It's pretty simple description for now. You can see that we haven't configured the author name and an email name, but this is very important when running production, so we can properly track who's doing what on the repository. For now, I'm gonna leave this the way it is, but we can change it later on. So having a git diff, it shows us no changes. If you go to git status, it says that we're based on the master branch. No conflicts arise, and then we can push our file to the repository. So we can have a git push command. Wait a little bit for the new file being sent to the master branch of the repository, and then we can refresh the screen, and we have the new VPC out file, which is a simple template between subnets on the Ohio region. If you go into the commits, you're gonna see the first commit made a couple minutes before. We can see the branch that I have. For now, just the master one. Tags helps with the access control, and go back to the code. That's what I have here. Again, you can edit the file as an admin user. We're not going to do this right now, so let's change it and edit the file remotely through the as the CloudFormation administrator. Okay, let's add the file to the pb edit, so we can make these more visual, but you can use the command line. And I'm jumping to our VPC template file here. So basically, it's again, it's going to create a VPC with two subnets and attach an internet gateway to the VPCs as a production, and we have some reference and tag names. So let's say we change some of the names. Let's say like subnet A to A, and we call public production, and make the same change on the other subnet. Let's call public production. Oops. I'm gonna save the file, hitting bb for a while, and we can run git status again, and it notice that VPC auto has changed. And if you use the git diff command, it will show you the difference. So this is the previous value, and this is the new value online. So requires the changes that we did into the file. So this is useful if we're doing changes, and it's pretty common on using code, so any developer knows this well. But keep the infrastructure as a code. Using this tool is also very helpful, and probably the way a lot of things going to be done in several places. So once we're good with this, we can run the git add big A command again to add this, and then we can commit the file again, saying that I have any descriptions. So let's say that's subnet descriptions or description were updated. And again, we are ready to push the change back to the repository with the git push command. Again, this is very quick, such small code. And if we check the commits, now we have a new one added here. That's the description we just added. The again, the difference in what we changed. So this is the previous value in red, new value in green. Both the commands, you can use the split view where you can compare line by line, so it's very useful in troubleshooting. Notice change, and if you go back to the code, we can see that we have our template and has been updated. Okay, so back to the AAM console. I have previously created a custom CloudFormation power user role that allows us to run the pipeline, and we give the proper access rights to the pipeline, so you can use CloudFormation to automate creation of our stacks. And again, of course, this broad access is not well secure right now, but it's our demo. So basically, we had this custom custom role with power user access permissions. Alright, so from AM console, let's jump into the CodePipeline. Again, since I'm at Ohio and I don't have any pipeline created here, jump into the welcome screen, and where we can start with a pipeline, and I'm gonna name it okay, CFN Auto, as we're doing in the different steps. I'm gonna make our source CodeCommit as a provider. Then I have the repository name that we previously created and the master branch. So here's an interesting part. You can have different pipelines for different environments. So you can have a dev, QA, and several different pipelines, and test your code or infrastructure as a code before committing to the master branch, making change into production. But more on this later. I'm not going to do this in this demo, so not make it complicated right now. So we're not using build provider, but those are the compatible products like Jenkins or AWS CodePipeline you can use. And the deployment provider, again, you can push into Elastic Beanstalk code deploy or direct to the container service. For them, we're gonna push this to the CloudFormation. We're gonna create an update in stack. Let's name it again. Stack name is Siphon Auto. Template file is our VPC auto.yml file. There's no configuration, no changes in capability, and then we have previous AAM created role. So you should have created this role before going to the pipeline. Again, a pipeline also requires a service role, and if you haven't previously created one, you are able to do this into the screen. So since I have one created in a previous demos or tests, I'm gonna select the custom one that I have already created here. So here is the final review of the pipeline. Let's click on create pipeline and wait for a few minutes. Also, please note that a lot of stuff is stored in S3, so when we're cleaning up the lab, remember to go into the S3, check the CloudFormation template bucket, and pipeline CodeCommit, all the stuff that might be left over on S3, so don't pay extra charges for this. So right away you can see that the CodeCommit is reading the our template as a source because it's the detected change. Technically is the first change we're creating the pipeline, and it's checking the source. If all goes well, it should go into the staging phase. So let's hold off for a second, for a few minutes, and you should see this moving to the staging prediction. So here is green message says that it's succeeded, and this is the commit ID that we had before, the changes that we had, and we see the CloudFormation stage going on. So if you go into the CloudFormation page and events, here are the elements of the VPC being automated created with CloudFormation stacked to the code pipeline. So again, clicking on details, it can show you how it's running. Let's go back to the CodeCommit for a while. Yeah, still have one branch. And CloudFormation is running. Let's check it again. Alright, so the says the the VPC and CloudFormation stack is done. Alright, so here is the change on success. If we go into the VPC right now, we can see Again, it needs to be on a high region. It should be. We can see our prod VPC created along with the side range we selected. There's no flow logs created for this. We can see the subnets. Okay, so I had a typo here. That's a good opportunity to correct this using a change in commit. So I'm gonna correct this and create a new private subnet in the process. If you check the routing table, production routing table, we have the new default internet route and subnet association. So both subnets are associated to this routing table, which means that those are public ones. Alright, so let's get back into the BB edit for this correction. Okay, so back into our template. Let's fix my type here so we can test the change in a resource, and let's see if you can create another subnet here. So I'm gonna name this subnet to C, and I'm gonna create it into USS2C. Availability is on. Make a new IP address. Got a new description, and I'm not going to create another route table association. I'm gonna keep this as a private subnet for our test, right? Okay, so let's save it. Again, back into the key interface. You can see that we have the mod 55. If you do a git diff command, we see my type of correction here and a new subnet created. So let's commit the file back to the repository. So let's have a new description. This is correcting typo in the subnet description, and add a new private subnet. Okay, here it is, and now let's push into the repository. Got it. So we have just pushed into the repository, and pipeline we see the change in a few probably in a few minutes, and starting processing the change. So and running the CloudFormation update. So here is this. Code commit is in progress right now. There'll be a minute before it goes into the staging step. If not there's no error in my template. In the meantime, we can see there's no, I'm going to refresh the CloudFormation screen. There's no change until it moves into the second stage. Okay, so we had about 1 minute after this process, and then we have the CloudFormation in progress. So if you go back to the and refresh the screen, probably gonna see the changes. So we have the subnet, you see, creation, and have the update in subnet 2a that I had typed in the description. Here's the status of the pipeline. So we have one succeed, and this is in progress. Alright, so let's hold on for a while until this completed, then we can check the CloudFormation events and the VPC to make sure that we had the new routing table created and the naming tag corrected. Alright, so yeah, here's the update was completed, no changes. Here are 3 more events to show up, and creation complete, update and cleanup complete. And now if you go into the routing table, we shouldn't see any changes. So we have a new subnet to see available to be added to this routing table, but because we didn't, it remains as an isolated, as a private one. So checking into the subnets, we had the GC, and again I made a mistake, should call this as a private production, but this is the correct subnet. So we might run another correction on onto the VPC, and if you check the routing table, you just have the regular VPC route, no default route to internet, which is what I wanted, a private subnet, and I have the broad VPC here. Alright, so the next step is adding authorization step into this pipeline, so we can see how we can change the pipeline and do a few a little bit more things like this authorization. Hold on. Okay, so back to the pipeline. Let's edit and add another stage. So let's call this out. We call it approval, and actually approve changes. There will be a manual approval. Again, you can have an SNS topic, send an email notification, or do a lot of more complicated changes, like triggering a lambda change, connection to your authorization system, like parameters now. And for now, let's keep it simple, just doing console authorization so you can see it running. And now we have manual approval process. Let's save the pipeline. And now we have with no change. We can force a change using release change, but since we need to fix the typo in the subnet creation, I won't do this right now. So let's go back into the or file. Okay, so let's fix this true nano. So this is a private subnet. Save the file. Again, we can check with git status that I have more file. We can see the difference. Now this all. Okay, so we just need to commit and push. Set. So let's push into the repository, and again hold on for a few seconds, and we're gonna start working on commit. So okay, here it is. Yeah, so yeah, I've paused the file for a few seconds while it's processing the source change, and in a few seconds, under a minute, we should have the authorization process going on. So as the authorization goes on, you can authorize or not using the console, and if you have a SNS notification through email, a group of persons or someone in charge of reviewing the changes can use this link to review and approve or not the change. So here you got the action to review it. In console we can just type an typo correction, reviewed and approved. And of course we haven't using the regular code pull request and reviewing in this process, so not make more complicated, but usually you'd have used different branches, pull requests, etc. But for now, let's approve the change and see it being applied, and complete how changes into the infrastructure can be starting being set up for versioning and approval. So right now the CloudFormation change is being processed. We should see changes happening here in a few seconds. Okay, if you go into the subnet, we can see this has been changed already. Let's make a few more seconds until it says it's completed. I noticed that again you can see the artifact provision, execution ID, and the changes we are doing to the pipeline. And quit. So okay, here is succeeded. CloudFormation event has 5 more events to show, and says this completed, and we can see private subnet description is completed. So that's pretty much it to this demo. Allowing us has been a little bit longer, should be around more than 4 minutes, but this is very simple pipeline into CloudFormation, and as more complete exercise you can do is using Xcode BB into the non-free version, which has a lot of cool stuff for developers to probably use it, and making different branches and using CloudFormation reference variables, so you can choose depending on the branch you're working on, doing a developer or a QA VPC, for example, and other resource to test it before you commit to production. So right now we just commit this into the production VPC, which is not recommended and not really used in production. So just made out into the branch master. Right, so well, if I'm keeping testing the lab, we can keep it. You should make a notice on charts. If you live in few of these elements, it can change from the way AWS charge things. So look after the CodeCommit repository pipeline, S3 elements, and the VPC elements. So you can start deleting your stack in CloudFormation, then your pipeline, then your code commits, and the end users and custom roles you created. And I hope this has been useful learning a few of these tools. If you're new to it, that's how starting getting more and more experience with this those development tools, since I'm more of an infrastructure guy, but hopefully this will help you getting more and more into AWS tools. Thank you for watching.